everybody. How you doing? Welcome to a brand new In the Shop. And we got a good one for you today. And in today's shop video, we're going to be talking about my top 4. Actually, today it's going to be 5 because I'm throwing you an extra. My top 5 baits for the month of July. The month of July. We're going to give you 2 or 3 for up north, and we're going to give you 2 for down south, okay? Let's start this video by describing the month of July. There's 4th of July, starts the month, Independence Day, people are celebrating, but July means summer. Guys, this is official, straight up summertime in July. Listen to me. I don't care if you're in upstate New York, if you're in the Midwest, if you're in the South, if you're on the West Coast, wherever you're at, the month of July is summertime. And guys, it's hot. July and August, without a doubt, are always 2 of the hottest months of the year. So July, guys, we are straight up in the summer pattern now, even up north. Real quick, I want to relate to you the 3 things you should always consider in summertime. If you're a fan of this channel, you may have heard this entire video about summertime fishing, but in the summer, I'm going to say 3 things over and over and over in my mind. Deep, thick, or current. Deep, thick, or current. And guys, all that means is they are the 3 primary patterns that happen in July, in summertime, right? Deep's an easy one. A lot of fish go deep in the month of July. And deep is relative to where you live, right? What we're saying some of the deeper water in that place. Reservoir, lake, natural lake, stream, river. When it's hot, they go deep. And they go deep because of colder water, because of bait, and because of oxygen content is generally better, okay? Number 2, in the month of July, in the summertime, those fish are going to go thicker. I say thick or thicker. And what I mean by that is even in the hot temperatures of July, 80-degree water temperature, 90-degree air temperature, they will stay shallow if there's thick cover, okay? Even in Texas, Louisiana, and Florida, you guys are dying in July. It's so hot. You got your shirt off. Dude, it's a nightmare. But there will always be shallow fish in July if the cover is thick. And what I mean by that is if it's matted grass, lily pads, whatever, if it's thick brush, overhanging trees, if it's docks, but there's shade under the docks, right? And they're going to stay in that thick, shallow cover for the same reasons they went deep. Cooler water, the oxygen content under there is usually great, and there's food. There's bait fish, there's bluegill, there's stuff to eat. All right, the last one in July, and then I want to get to the baits, is current. Current. No matter where you fish, rivers and streams, that's a no-brainer. But even in reservoirs, natural lakes, even ponds, you're always going to have a little bit of current, whether it's from an incoming creek or a river or a dam or wind or boat traffic, anything creating current, fish will go there in July, in the summer, because of the same things: oxygen, cooler water, and bait. All right, speaking of baits, let's get into it. Here are my top 4/5 baits for the month of July. We're going to start up north, and I'm going to give you 2 in the finesse category, guys. And this one I have to mention first because it's the hottest trend, if not the hottest almost the hottest trend in all of fishing. And it's the perfect bait for July. And guys, I'm talking about the Jighead minnow. The Jighead minnow. And listen, if you're watching this and you hate forward-facing sonar, that's okay. I understand your pain. This is still a great bait in the month of July because it's a great mimic of forage. And when the fish get more horizontal, right? If they're more on that horizontal plane, that's a great way to catch them. So suspended fish, fish that are non-grouped up, fish that aren't on vertical stuff, it's more just flat. That's a great way to catch them and find them. Obviously, if you're using forward facing, it's great too. All right, guys, here, I want to keep it real simple. Jigheads, love that one. It's Berkley Fusion. That's the hybrid jighead. The only thing I really want to make sure your jighead has is that 90-degree line tie. Line tie that goes straight up and down, okay? So 90-degree line tie. Guys, 1/8, 3/16, and 1/4 ounce. That's all you need, okay? 1/8, 3/16, and 1/4. And we're basically going to use the weight that's heavy enough to get to those fish. If they're in 10 or less, usually an 1/8 ounce. If it's 10 to 20, 10 to 25, 3/16. If they get deeper than 25, if they're in 30, 40, if they're suspended in 50, the 1/4 ounce is great, okay? That's the Jighead. The baits, guys, there's a lot of good minnows. It's the hottest category of soft plastics. Go to Tackle Warehouse and look at minnows, soft plastic minnows. You're going to see a million of them. But by far, this is one of my favorites. It's pretty new, relatively new. It's called the Drip Minnow. It's a Berkley PowerBait lure, okay? Guys, the main thing here is size and color. Excuse me. So I basically carry a lot of shad colors. Whites, pearls, smokes to imitate bait fish. I like to carry some that have a little green or orange in them, especially for the guys up north if they're eating yellow perch or bluegill or shiners or something like that where it has a little more color. That's a good one. And last but not least, dude, I like green pumpkin. I like straight up green pumpkin on my minnows. Just a real neutral, good color anywhere you go. So colors, keep it simple. Sizes, keep it simple. Guys, I carry a 3-inch minnow when the bait's real little. I carry a 4-inch minnow. By far, the most used size for me is the 4-inch. But once again, I do want to have some of the bigger 5-inch minnows. If where you're fishing, if that forage is bigger, make sure you have that big one. Could be alewife, could be Cisco, could be herring, whatever it is. If that bait is 4 or 5 inches, you want a 5-inch minnow as well, okay? Jighead minnow for horizontal fish, especially those ones that go deep or in current, right? Deeper, thicker current. Ones that are deeper, ones that are in current. If it's horizontal, Jighead minnow. All right, here's your bonus, and I'm going to just give this to you real quick. I got to give you a second one. My North guys, I got to give you a second one in the finesse category, and that is a drop shot. Straight up drop shot, guys. We're going to keep it real generic here and tell you that a 4 or 6-inch straight tail worm, like a Berkley bottom hopper, or the Max Scent flatworm. Max Scent flatworm. They have a 3.8. They have a 4.25. And, you know, an 1/8 to a 1/4 ounce drop shot weight. Just like we talked about with the Jighead minnow. I had to add this because the Jighead minnow in July up north is good when they're horizontal, when they're suspended. That's the bait. But guys, when they get on those vertical breaks or if the fish are pinned to the bottom, they're not suspended, they're pinned to the bottom, the drop shot outfishes the minnow every time, okay? You know, again, just vertical, more if you're fishing a main lake point where it goes from 5 to 20, like that, if you're fishing bridge pilings, dams, deep docks, something more vertical, 45-degree angle or steeper, I prefer a drop shot, and especially when they're on the bottom, I prefer a drop shot. Okay, number 2, 3, for up north in the month of July, you guys, you heard me say it, deeper, thicker current. We're going to address the thicker now. And up north, New York, Ohio, Delaware, Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Michigan. Guys, largemouth, especially in the month of July, like to bury in the thickest grass you can find, okay? That grass, a lot of times is hydrilla, milfoil, coontail, deep eelgrass, mattock grass, whatever, junk grass, lily pads, reeds, thick grass. Even in the hot month of July, largemouth up north will get thicker. They'll get in that bury in that stuff. And guys, there is no better bait for getting in and out of cover than the old punch rig. The old punch rig, guys. And specifically, heavier weights, right? And the heavier weights are to help this lure get through that thick grass down in those tunnels. If you've ever swam in a place that has hydrilla or milfoil, look at how many caverns and tunnels are under those thick grass mats, okay? And because of that, and also real quick, if your lake doesn't have grass, but it has thick cover, wood, just gnarly docks with ropes and cables, brush mats, trash mats, whatever. This is the bait, okay? By heavier weight, basically, guys, I'm talking about a ½ tungsten worm weight, all the way up to an ounce and a quarter, but about an ounce, okay? So ½ ounce to an ounce and a quarter. I love the 3/4 ounce. It's a very under talked about size in July for fishing mats. But, and I just peg it. I just use a little bobber stop, guys, to peg that weight to the head. So when it's going in and out, it goes through real smooth, okay? Want to talk to you about the hook. Guys, I prefer when I'm doing this punching, flipping technique where I'm using this heavy weight to penetrate the thick cover. I like a straight shank hook. Usually I'm up close. I'm within 5 to 20 feet of the target. And I prefer to snell knot a straight shank hook. Okay, straight shank hook. The Berkley Fusion 3/0 or 4/0 is the hook. It's a great hook, dude. It's sharp, it's stout, it doesn't bend out, it's got a keeper. 3 or 4/0 straight shank hook. And then last but not least, guys, this is the time when you don't want any appendages on your bait. You don't want arms. You don't want a curl leg. You don't want appendages, okay? Because of that, my favorite shape for this second Northern July technique, punching, flipping, whatever you want to call it, and these thick mats, is a beaver. Just a beaver style bait, okay? The Berkley Creature Hog, and it's actually max scent, is my favorite. Dude, I love it, love it, love it. It's pretty small. It says 4-inch. It's probably 4-inch, but it fishes a little smaller than most beavers. And I like that. It has no curly legs or arms, and it's max scent. So it's got that scent to it. Last but not least, guys, on colors, I leave it extremely simple when I'm using this July technique of punching through thick stuff. And I throw black and blue or green pumpkin candy, something like that. Black and blue and green pumpkin candy. And generally, when it's dark conditions or the water's dirty, I'll fish the black and blue. When it's cleaner water and the light conditions are brighter, fish the green pumpkin. Okay, real easy, guys, real easy. All right, let's keep going. So number 3, 4, if you count the 2 with the northern technique. Now we're going to move to the south, and number 3 is a big worm. Guys, a big worm. Okay? Now, if you're a fan of this channel, we just did an entire video on old school plastics. And I consider the big ribbon tail an old school plastic. So you might want to go back and check that out. But listen to me. In the month of July, a big worm down south, Carolinas to Texas to Florida, everything in between, dude, that's where it's at. Not only are you going to get a lot of bites in the month of July with the big worm, you're going to get some giant bites, like big ones, okay? All right, first of all, what do I mean by big worm? I'm categorizing anything that's 8 inches to 12 inches as a big worm. 8 to 12 inches. I like the 10-inch worm as a perfect summertime July worm, okay? 8 to 12 inches. There's the 12. There's the 8. Dude, they just love this. Now, especially in the month of July, down south, when we're talking about deep water or current, this is when this thing excels, okay? Deep water or current, this thing excels. But let me also remind you that depending on where you live in the month of July, we can rig that big worm like 4 ways, okay? Texas rig, I love it. If you're fishing around cover, brush piles, cane piles, standing timber. If you're in Louisiana or Texas or Florida, Georgia, and you have deep grass or, you know, deep on Lake Toho, deep on Lake Okeechobee is like 8 feet, right? So it's all relative. But if you have grass, the Texas rig big worm is great. But guys, I also love it these other ways. I want to mention real quick. Big worm is great on a Carolina rig. Usually a 1/2 to 3/4 ounce weight. Great on a Carolina rig. A big worm is a great bait on a shaky head. For my guys down south that are dealing with harder bottoms, rock or gravel, or those long main lake clay points where the channel bends in, shell beds, a big worm is phenomenal on a shaky head. And last but not least, in the month of July, guys, give this one a try. And I talk about this in my other video, but a big worm on the back of a football jig. There's that missile headbanger, 3/4 ounce football head out on that deep water, the ledges, the rocks, the shell, the gravel, creek bends, river channels. Something about a big worm on a jig is they don't see it a lot, and it's like a deadly combination, okay? So bait number 3/4 for the month of July down south, big giant worm, ribbon tail, big giant ribbon tail, okay? All right, last but not least, down south, we have to address fish that stay in the thick cover even in the heat of July. Definitely, I want to say this again. If you live in a place where the water temperature is 90 degrees and the air temperature is 100 and it's hot and it's humid and you can barely stand it, not every fish in that lake goes deep. In fact, a large population of bass in the month of July down south stay shallow, but they're going to be around thicker cover, especially if that thicker cover provides shade. I do want to mention that that same punch bait we talked about for the north works great, but we're going to give you one other one for the month of July down south, and it is the old froggy, guys. The old froggy. The frog is such a good bait down south in the month of July. I cannot even tell you how many big ones I've caught. But the cover has to be thick, right? So again, hydrilla, milfoil, lily pads, duckweed. It could be brush, overhanging trees that have fallen. But under those trees is shade. Docks. In the month of July down south, if you have docks where you can skip a frog into that shade, there's a ton of them still shallow, okay? Now, my frog choice in July changes from what it's been leading up to July, right? You remember during the spawn, post-spawn, we were talking about a popping frog because I could leave it in place. I could keep it there. But in July, I want a frog that I can skip under that thick cover. And I also want a frog that pushes, okay? Once again, if you're watching this and you want to learn a little more about this, we have a whole video on how to select the right frog. But the right frog for July is a walking, pushing style frog, okay? Guys, there's tons of good ones out there. But this is a special one called the Sneaky Frog by Mullix. They have it in two sizes. They have a small one and a big one. I really like the big one. And if you look at it, it looks more like a Zara spook, like a stick bait, than it does a frog. But it's got the belly weight. And because of that belly weight, and look at the shape, it's almost keel shaped, right? This thing will walk. That belly weight will push. And we want that pushing for when that thick cover is matted. And we want to make sure that the fish living under those mats, duckweed, pads, hydrilla mats, milfoil, eelgrass, we want to make sure that those fish can feel the push. So you want a pushing, walking frog. Even in July, fish are going to stay shallow in that thick cover, cooler water with the shade. Oxygen is great under that stuff, especially vegetation. And last but not least, guys, when you get up shallow, if you're seeing bluegill, if you're seeing minnows, if you're seeing life up shallow, if you hear this noise, you hear the sucking of bluegill and brim, those fish will be there, even in the heat of July, and they will eat that frog. I promise you. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this one, talking about the top 4, maybe 5. We added one for the north. Top 4 baits for the month of July. Give these a try. Remember, deeper, thicker current. Keep that in mind and give these 4 baits a try. And no matter where you live, up north, down south, Midwest, you're going to catch more fish. I hope you guys are really enjoying these videos. I love presenting these videos. If you like what you're hearing, if you like what you're watching here, Subscribe to the channel. Please give me a subscribe. Button's right down there. If you're already subscribed, tell your friends about it. Tell your fishing buddies about Mike Iaconelli Fishing on YouTube. We're here to hopefully help you learn a few things and catch a couple more bass. Have a good one. Good luck, good fishing, especially in the month of July. Bye.